three stories spring to mind. The first to support the belief that one size fits no one. Orange is running a program for its middle managers, and there are 1,000 of them. And the temptation would be to take all 1,000 through the same experience. Equally, the economics do not allow to give each one of those 1,000 people a totally individual experience. So the challenge was, how can we create something progressive that would meet these needs? And what we designed with Orange was a 3-day program, which started actually about a month before and finishes about a month after, with the core 3 days that are in the middle, in which no two people have the same experience. So what happens at the beginning is they fill in a questionnaire to understand where their strengths are, where their opportunities may be, and sometimes with a 360-degree element to understand what their colleagues, if they have a team, for example, that they manage. And then off the back of that, they are recommended a route through the 3 days. Because during the 3 days, there are 3 parallel streams of activity. So you can't do everything. In fact, you can't do more than a third of what's going on. But the idea is that you do those things that help you most. Now, they then have a one-to-one coaching conversation to help them decide which route to take, which might be about building on strengths. What are those things you're already very good at? How can we help you become even better? Or it might be about those things that you really want to get good at and you've struggled with for ages and you'd really appreciate some help. So one element of it will be what are the topics to be covered. The second element of it will be the style in which the learning takes place, because all of us have different preferences for how we learn, and during a 3-day experience we're going to get quite exhausted if it's the same level of energy, the same pace, the same style at each experience. So the most important thing in instructional design is managing energy levels. So we'll work with them to design their own personal path through these 3 days, where they're going to the sessions that cover the subjects that appeal to them and deliver in the style that appeals to them. There are 3 different styles. There's the live action, which is tremendously like an actor's up there running a case that they'll be familiar with. They have to respond in the moment. It's quite demanding, it requires spontaneous actions, and immediately there's feedback to it. The second is the workout, which is also quite fast-paced, but much more practical tools and techniques and how I can use them, and is interspersed with a conversation from the person who's leading the session, or my gym coach in this case. And the third type, because for Orange it was important to increase peer-to-peer coaching and create support groups, is something called a buddy up. And in this, people take a box of tools or some kit and they help each other and they work out the problem themselves and they solve it themselves. So a much more reflective experience. And so again, there's a variety of experiences during this 3-day event, which is then followed up by online booster sessions, which take place fortnightly for 3 sets afterwards, in which people talk about what they have tried to apply, what worked, what didn't, the problems they got, and how they could resolve them. So this is quite a progressive way of dealing with management development. At the other different place altogether is the challenge of how do you get bankers to do robust performance management. And I'm talking about bankers in the investment banking sense, which there are still a few left. And of those, this particular bank is still doing very well, thriving. And their challenge was that bankers are not terribly interested in performance management. So much so that one of the people we interviewed as part of the research had as their goal for the year, shoot from the hip. That was it. Not exactly a smart objective. So what we worked out was, what is it that motivates bankers? Not very difficult to work that out. Money, winning, getting the inside track, those sorts of things. So we designed a little marketing campaign that had an envelope that arrived on people's desks that said, inside this envelope is a racing certainty. Ah, that's kind of interesting, racing. So they can't open the envelope, and that's that. And in the subject said, when it comes to changing other people's behaviour, the nearest thing to a racing certainty is praise. Find out how to give it so people do just what you want every time. So, oh, it could be interesting. I'll give that a go. And they came along to what was a half-day workshop, which was focused on how to give praise, how to give counsel, the opposite of praise, what to do when there are rebuttals. People don't agree with you, sham acceptance, yeah, but they don't really mean it. And also how to set goals that stretch but don't strain. So a group of these went along, they actually found it very useful, and they started to spread the word, and more people came along. And the program is now in its 5th run. what is more interesting is the impact that this program had. Bear in mind, this organisation with no performance management in the past and no desire to learn how to do it. The client went back to people 4 months later and found that 85% of people had used the techniques. And of those, 88% had seen an improvement in performance as a result of using the techniques. So it's not just a fun exercise, fun bit of marketing at the beginning, bit of a gizmo, half a day out. It had actually led to real results. And the third story I'd share is from an electrical retailer that was closing down and restructuring in a very significant way, such that 40% of roles were due to go over a 2-year period. And not only that, but their budgets had been cut and their customer service targets had been increased. So they were being stretched in every possible direction. And they were like, how on earth do we keep these people motivated? Almost the opposite of the investment bankers. These are school leavers who come straight into this organisation. It's the logistics division. Most of the work they do is putting satellite dishes to the backs of vans, driving around to your home or to a shop or picking things up that haven't worked or something like that. And this is the only job they've ever had. There aren't many other jobs near where they live. How can we keep them motivated and engaged throughout this turbulent period? And the challenge there was very clear. The solution was about understanding what mattered to them, communicating in a way that was relevant to them, and giving them a chance to, if you like, regain their mojo, feel back in control. And the program that was run there, the marketing was done in the style of the Sun newspaper, which was what most of them read, that or the Mirror. And this tabloid communication engaged people enough to come along to one of 3 workshops, or sometimes to all 3 of them. One on me, which was clearly a very personal one, about what are the conversations, how do I work out what I want in life? What are the conversations I have in my head that stop me getting it, and how can I change those? The second one was called Create Your Own Luck, which was about how to think more optimistically and how to increase your chances of things going your way. And the third one was called Cresting the Curve, which is about the emotional roller coaster of change, how to manage that, and how to spend more time on the ups and the downs. I talked earlier about the importance of research. They ran a pilot in 2 sites, 2 locations, both of which were closing down, and measured the difference pre and post the shift between those who went to the program and those who didn't. And there was they found there was up to 144% uplift in those that went versus those that didn't, which was sufficient to convince the previously somewhat unhealthily sceptical senior management to roll the program out, which they did, and the results were remarkable. They had the best customer service in 21 years. They reduced employee turnover, even though people knew their jobs were going, by 30%. And they came in under budget. And more important almost than this are the individual stories of people taking things on. So, for example, at one stage the system went down. And when the system goes down, that's a really serious thing for the logistics and distribution division. And the guys worked through the night, mainly workmen, worked through the night, split shifts, double shifts, in order to make sure that no customer was badly affected by it. Now that level of motivation and engagement had been hard to have in the previous period. It was remarkable to have in this period when jobs were likely to be lost. Well, were definitely going to be lost. So those are 3 progressive solutions to perhaps quite familiar